It's Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. I want to get right into this video today. More signs that we are heading into very, very serious economic trouble. Markets across the board down today, not too bad, but everything down. But we got this good news today right here on CNBC. Companies added 455,000 jobs in March, slightly more than expected, ADP says. Now, most of us will take this as good news, and I guess this is good news, but it's also going to be fuel for the Fed to no doubt raise rates this May and more than likely 50 basis points. Now, a lot of people out there said that they were not going to raise rates at all this year. Those people were wrong. And these same people are saying that there's no way the Fed's going to raise rates again. These people will be proven wrong again. The Fed now, I believe we have a 70% chance that the Fed will raise rates in May 50 basis points. And they're going to use this as fuel to raise rates. 455,000 jobs added in March. Now, when we dig a little deeper and we dissect this, service providing companies added 377,000 of these jobs. Leisure and hospitality, people working at hotels, motels, resorts, 161,000 positions. We have 11.3 million jobs available right now. Where are all these people? And so we have no doubt a service sector economy. I don't see America being a world superpower much longer if we're basing our economy on a service sector economy and an economy of consumption. But looking at these jobs in the service sector and many of these in leisure and hospitality, ask yourself, how many of these jobs, the 455,000, how many of these jobs pay more than minimum wage? I would say that 70% of these jobs pay low wages, minimum wage, or even less. And how many of these jobs are even full-time? How many offer benefits? A majority of these jobs are low wage, minimum wage jobs. And so this may look like good news on the outside, but on the inside, when you break it down, these are service sector jobs, leisure and hospitality jobs, and we still have over 11 million jobs out there available. Now, if you have no money right now, if you have no safety net, a cash reserve, you have no assets, no gold, no silver, then take advantage of this and use it really as an opportunity. Yes, many of these jobs may not be your career path, but in the meantime, if you can go get an extra 10 or 20 hours a week or more, take advantage of it. Somebody wrote me yesterday, said, JB, I already work full time. How can I work more? And that's where we're at today as a society. Our grandparents were working 60, 70, 80, 100 hours a week. They never took benefits from the system. They had too much pride. People back in the day would work as much as they could, 60, 70, 80 plus hours a week because they had pride and they knew the value of saving some money and buying things with cash. They didn't have credit cards back in the day. People didn't finance things like they do today. I mean, it's buy now, pay later plans, credit cards at 25% interest. Our grandparents are rolling over in their graves watching what's happening to this country and how we are just spending money and going deeper into debt, buying things we can't afford. But to this person who works a full-time job, you can't work an extra 10 hours a week, an extra 12, 15 hours a week? Is that really going to break you? There's 24 hours in a day. Take advantage of the opportunity of all these jobs out there. And literally, I mean, when you go to a store or a restaurant, they're literally hiring anybody that's breathing right now. These people aren't even working hard. You can flip burgers at McDonald's, make $18. In-N-Out's paying $20.50 to flip burgers. So, you know, an extra 10 hours a week. Is it going to help you, hurt you? people just don't want to work for the most part. There are exceptions. Many of you understand the value of hard work, saving money, paying down your debts. But I mean, think about that. Somebody working a 40-hour work week complaining that that's too much. They can't work anymore. Too bad that they don't have any money put away. They don't own any assets. They're drowning in debt, but they can't work over 40 hours a week. And this individual, I don't know how they are. They might be 25, 30 years old. And they don't want to go out there and just, you know, hit it. So, you know, you got to have that mentality of just nose to the grind and just get it done. And all that extra money, you know, just use that money to buy assets, to put cash away. Use your full-time job to pay the bills and the rent. Use the other job to just to put away cash, gold, silver, and pay down debt. There's opportunity out there. It may not be the career of your choice, but, you know, it's temporary. Just go out there and get it done. 1 in 5 workers runs out of money before payday. Survey finds. The cost of living, ladies and gentlemen, at this point isn't rising. It is exploding. It is skyrocketing, and many households are being stretched extremely thin. And this is why it's so imperative, if you can, if you have the time, the ability, get a side hustle. Go work an extra 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week. You know, we used to say living paycheck to paycheck. Doing videos 2 years ago, and we were talking about the majority of this country living paycheck to paycheck. Now people can't even make it to their paycheck. They're already broke, drowning in debt before they even get their paycheck. So the paycheck isn't even stretching to the next paycheck. People are in big trouble. 30% of this country cannot afford to even save money. They have no money saved up for an emergency. Zilch, zero. 52% have less than 2 months or less of savings for an emergency. You lose a job, you've got 60 days or less to survive. 52% of this country has less than two months of survival. And a majority of those people have zero. So really, really concerning. And what's really scary here is we are no doubt getting deeper into this depression. It's going to get much worse. And we have never seen this country so unprepared, so broken, so divided, so bankrupt. A country now that literally makes nothing. People have nothing saved up to fall back on. And this is going to be absolutely catastrophic the deeper we head into this thing. And I believe by mid to the end of the summer, we are going to see real serious trouble with this economy, as we already are. Anybody right now that does not see this economy unraveling and collapsing, you live on another planet. And I'm not here to judge you or make fun of you, but honestly, you've got to live on Mars. And people, there's still 1 or 2 people that write me and say, where's the collapse? Now, if you have a job and you're making good money and you have your benefits and you live in a nice neighborhood with a white picket fence, I guess life is good for you. You ignore what's happening to your neighbors, ignoring what's happening to the cities, your state, and your country. But I guess it's not a depression until you lose your job, until you lose your house. But while your neighbor is losing everything, while majority of this country is going broke, a majority of this country living paycheck to paycheck, and now not even being able to make it paycheck to paycheck, as long as you're living in your nice little house with a white picket fence and you have a job, who cares? Everything's fine. But it is not fine. And you can be on the other side of that white picket fence very, very quickly. Now, as soon as you lose your job, then you'll realize, I guess, what a depression looks like. You'll realize and see what a collapsing economy looks like. As inflation heats up, 64% of Americans are now living paycheck to paycheck. That on CNBC. And how about this one today on CNBC? Mortgage refinance demand plunges 60% as rates hit highest level since 2018. Average 30-year fixed mortgage right now is around 4.8%. Get ready. It is going to go past 5%. And I think we will no doubt be well above 5% this summer. We could be over 5% next week, this spring, but I would be shocked, really shocked, that we don't see mortgage rates by the end of this year above 6%. And it could be even beyond that. Refinance applications fell 15% just this week, and they were down 60% from a year ago. Homebuyer mortgage demand is down 10% from a year ago. Remember, we have a record number of new homes being built right now, under construction, a record number of building permits pulled last year. Those homes are being completed right now or under construction right now. We're going to see people in huge financial trouble who are going to have to dump their homes. And it's going to be almost a repeat of what we saw in 2008, but much worse because of all this new home inventory, rising mortgage rates, this stagflation that we're seeing, the supply chain disruption, just all this uncertainty throughout the world. It is just a perfect storm coming, and it is going to annihilate the housing market. And as we saw back in 2008, so many people borrowed money out of their homes. So when they needed to sell, when they needed to get out, they could not get out. They were upside down because some of these homes had 3 mortgages on them: a first, a second, and a third. And right now, how many people have pulled money out of their homes using them as ATMs? And they're going to be in extremely serious trouble when they need to get out, because it's going to be, falling knives. And people are going to, they're going to realize that they need to get out, that they're in trouble, sell the house, downsize, but they borrowed money out of the homes. The homes now are depreciating and they're losing equity. And before you know it, they're upside down. There's no equity. They're upside down. They would have to come out of pocket to sell the home. People think that's impossible. It wasn't that long ago when we watched this take place. And I talked to somebody today, and he was telling me the hard hit he took in 2008 and the lessons he learned from 2008. Many of you, including myself, we all took hard hits back in 2008 after that collapse. I learned a valuable lesson. I did have a decent cash reserve to fall back on, but let me tell you, it goes fast, because these things don't last a couple weeks, a couple months, or a couple years. It took years to rebound, and thanks to the trillions of dollars that the government printed and borrowed to pull us out of that, creating now an even bigger, deeper hole. It could have been much worse, and now it's going to be much worse because we didn't do anything but print a ton of money in 2008 and pretty much try to print our way out of this massive collapse. You cannot print your way out of debt. You cannot print your way out of a collapse. All we did was buy time, but the inevitable is now knocking at the door, ladies and gentlemen. And really, a lot of this started in 2008. You could argue that it started way beyond then, and you'd have a good argument. But I mean, I think if we really go back to 2008 and look at this collapse and how much money we have been using with quantitative easing, the money printing, all these artificial injections, bringing interest rates to zero for over a decade, and now we're at 0.25%. So now what does the Fed do now? Back then, what were we, 5.5%, 6%, roughly in that area in 2008? What does the Fed do now when we're at 0.25? I mean, now we're going to do the opposite. Instead of lowering rates to zero, we're going to be raising rates. And many of you may say, well, they'll just reverse. I dare them to reverse. Reverse the rates, bring us up to 1%, 1.25%, and then reverse it and see what happens. You are going to see massive. If you think the inflation is bad now, wait till you see what's going to happen to the US dollar if they reverse course. The world is going to know that that the Fed has completely lost control, that our dollar is done, and that hyperinflation will be next for America. Go ahead and reverse course. I dare you. And you are going to have a Venezuela on your hands. Now, I really hope, I pray that the Fed does the right thing. And by doing the right thing, that is going to put us in a very, very serious depression. Without doing that, we turn into Venezuela. We're going to lose the US dollar. We will lose whatever purchasing power left that we have if they reverse course. That would be the most dangerous, idiotic thing they could do. The Fed must stop worrying about the stock market. It's got to stop worrying about the housing market. It must begin to worry about the future of this country, the economy, and the US dollar. Because without an economy, without a dollar, you don't have a stock market, you don't have a housing market. There is going to be incredible pain that is going to be felt as the Fed continues to raise rates. If they reverse course, there is going to be severe pain also. There is no way out of this, ladies and gentlemen. Prepare accordingly. The hedge today. Austin Airport warns it may run out of jet fuel. Where are we living today, ladies and gentlemen? It is 2022, and we're talking gas shortages, food shortages, jet fuel shortages. Austin Bergstrom International Airport, which is ranked number 29 in the U.S. based on 2021 passenger traffic, issued a fuel shortage alert Monday and urged airlines to carry extra fuel or send in more supplies via tankers. Will we see this at more airports across the U.S.? I believe we will. Comment down below. Is this going to become a problem? Air travel prices are skyrocketing. Look, I mean, how in the world, if you're working in leisure and hospitality, you're working at a resort, the price of air travel, the price to rent a car, I don't know how people are going to do this. And the leisure and hospitality sector is going to have to feel some pain. I drive by some of the resorts here. They seem somewhat busy on the weekends, but during the weekdays, it's dead. There's no way people are going to be flying around like they once did, driving like they once did with these gas prices, renting cars. I mean, to get a decent car rental now, it's like $100 a day. A car that used to be 40, 50 bucks a day is $100 a day now. Who's doing this? Who can afford to do this? And if people are doing it, instead of taking a 2-week trip, maybe they're doing a 1-week trip. But somewhere, somehow, something and somebody is going to lose here. Something has to get priced out. There's no way anybody's going to tell me that more people are going to go on vacation this year, more people are going to rent cars, more people are going to fly around the world at these prices. When we are watching people now not even be able to make it week to week, paycheck to paycheck. Their paycheck is running out before the next paycheck. Consumers ditch brand names for generic food as inflation shortages hit supermarkets. This is also on the hedge today. People are no doubt going to be less picky with some of the types of foods that they're buying now because it's going to boil down to price. You know, I was just thinking, imagine if we started seeing real third world country type things happening here where you went to a grocery store and half of it was just empty, or there was no meat today, or no chicken today, or a flash mob came in and stole all the meat. This is why it is imperative that every one of you has food storage, that you have food preparation. Go out today, go buy 5 or 10 cans of food, go buy a case of bottled water. If you have the means, go buy a filtration system, maybe like a Berkey where you can filter water. Buy some emergency food. You know, people will say, oh, I don't like the taste of that. I find that so idiotic that somebody right now saying, oh, I don't want to buy, a food that has a shelf life of, 15, 20, 25 years. Where I just have to add some water, throw it into a jet boil. Do you have a jet boil? That's another question. How do you heat up food? If you have food, how do you cook it? How do you heat it up? If your power goes out, gas doesn't work, how are you going to heat up your food? Are you going to go chop a tree down and light a fire in your backyard? Or I mean, think about it. You really got to start thinking outside of the box here. I have a couple jet boils. I tell every one of my friends, get a jet boil, because you can heat up 12, 16 ounces of water to a boil in around a minute and throw that into your emergency food and you have a meal. It does not make noise, it's not bright, it's a blue light, and it doesn't have any smoke, so it's very, very discreet, which if the lights go out and things get dangerous, you don't want to be letting everybody know that you're cooking food and that there's smoke and all that. You want to be very, very discreet. So a jet boil is just an incredible asset, an incredible tool, not that expensive. I really advise everybody out there to look into getting a jet boil. I think it's an incredible, incredible tool. Also compact, throw it in your bag, throw it in your car. And I think it's good to have a couple of them actually, but it's a great tool to have. But are you really, getting back to what I was saying though, you know, if you haven't eaten in 3 or 4 days, most people would eat a piece of leather and be happy. We saw in Venezuela where people were eating zoo animals. There's really no loose dogs or cats in Venezuela now. They've all been eaten. They broke into the zoos. They ate the zoo animals, eating zebras, you name it. When you're hungry, you'll be shocked and amazed what you will eat to survive. And so, you know, people going, oh, I'm going to buy some, I'm going to buy 10 pounds of steak, throw it in my freezer for emergency. No, you need storable food that doesn't need to be refrigerated, because if the power goes down, you're not going to have a way to cook it. You're not going to have a way to refrigerate or freeze it. So make sure that you have canned foods, make sure you have freeze-dried foods, and make sure you have a way to cook these foods. It's going to be very, very imperative. And let's hope nothing ever happens. I hope I never have to eat the emergency food, but I can tell you right now, if I'm hungry, I'm going to enjoy it. And also look at the nutrition. Make sure that it's giving you enough protein and calories for your day. So also you got to look at the nutritional benefits from certain foods compared to other foods. But I don't worry so much. I don't want it to be horrible tasting, but I don't worry so much about taste. I worry about calories. I worry about protein. I worry about nutrients, because when you're hungry, you're going to eat just about anything. Wear warmer sweaters. Government minister advice to Germans coping with soaring energy costs. Now, the minister said, turn off your heater and wear a sweater. Isn't that nice? This is another example of why you need to be self-sufficient as you possibly can. Because if there is a cyber attack, if a grid goes down, if the system goes down, are you going to be able to survive, and for how long? I think now, you know, minimally, you got to be able to go 30 days. 30 days minimal. 6 months, I think, is a really good number. Me personally, I'm probably at about 9 months, maybe a little more. But I think if you can hit 6 months of food storage and having a way to cook it and having enough water, I think if you're at 6 months, I think that's a really, really good number to aim for. But I think 30 days minimum, anything over that is phenomenal. 30 days is great, because you got to think, most people that you and I know probably could go maybe 3 days. That's it. And they probably have no way of really cooking their food. And if their freezers go out, refrigerators go out, they're done. They're eating crackers and canned soup, and that's it. And again, can they cook it? Do they have the tools to do it? And another article today, this coming from the Wall Street Journal. And I'll end with this. Positive drug test among U.S. workers hit 2-decade high. Literally. And I bring this up because there's just so many people today on pharmaceuticals. We had pulled up next to a gentleman about 2 days ago in Palm Desert, and he was at a stoplight in a brand new Cadillac, and he was asleep. At the intersection at a red light. And we blew the horn, and he popped up, woke up, and more than likely, this is an older gentleman on pharmaceuticals. But we have such a drug epidemic, and there's so much economic chaos taking place now, which turns into social chaos and people having just chaotic relationships and spousal abuse, domestic abuse. suicide, more drug use. And the more things get chaotic, the more things get out of control, people turn to alcohol. And look, if you want to have a glass of wine or a couple beers, I'm not judging you. Nothing wrong with that. Who doesn't like a good Guinness or a good glass of wine, right? Or a good whiskey. But people now are relying on it daily, smoking a lot of dope, drinking a lot of alcohol, taking a lot of pharmaceuticals because they're having a very hard time coping, living paycheck to paycheck, drowning in debt, living paycheck to not making it to the next paycheck. People are under an enormous amount of stress. You look at the faces on people when you're out. Many of them look worried. You've seen the road rage. I've seen altercations. And this is just the beginning. We haven't even seen how bad this is going to get. And as the food shortages increase and as fuel shortages increase, we're going to, at some point probably see gas stations limiting us to a certain amount of gas. The Chevron station by my house, $99 cuts off. What happens when that's 50 bucks? $25? Who knows where this is all going to go, ladies and gentlemen. There are so many moving parts, but a lot of people are now dealing with the stress by alcohol abuse and drug abuse. And I've said this many times, you do not want to be heading into the worst U.S. economy, U.S. collapse, greatest depression, call it whatever you want. You do not want to be heading into this with addictions. You want to be walking close to God. You want to get your body in better shape. You want to get your mind in better shape, your spirit in better shape, and your finances in better shape. I cannot stress this enough. And I will continue to talk about this because every day I go out, I see the ramifications of this economy on people's faces, the way they act, the way they carry themselves. A lot of people out there just really stressed, short-fused, and they don't know what to do. And again, this is why if you're taking care of your mind, your body, your soul, you're walking close to God, you don't need these crutches. You do not need these crutches. This is the time to get as strong as you can mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially right now, because we are entering something none of us have ever seen before. Many of us are not prepared for. Many of us are going to wake up one day and go, what happened? What just happened? And you will wake up, I will wake up, and we will say, we knew this was going to happen, and this is why we prepared for this. The day's coming, ladies and gentlemen. Time is running out. I don't know when all this absolutely lets loose, but we are watching piece by piece being dismantled right now. And time is not your friend. It is not your friend. Do we have a month? Do we have 6 months? Do we have a year? Do we have 2 years? I have no idea. All I know is I'm going to take every day that I have to try and get in a little bit better shape, to acquire a little bit more gold, a little silver, put a little more cash away, completely have zero debt, which I don't have any debt now. It's completely gone. And let me tell you, if you want to feel like a free human being, pay off all your credit cards, pay off your cars, pay off your house, pay it all off, and you will feel what real freedom and wealth feels like. I'm going to leave it there today. God bless every one of you. You are all blessed. Stay on course. Continue to prepare. This thing is going to get absolutely out of control. And what you need to do right now is do what you've been doing. Continue to prepare. Don't be paranoid. You are going to prosper. Many of you, no doubt, are going to become wealthy and prosper during the worst of times. And this is why this is the time to cut out things in your life and people in your life that you don't need. Cut out the drugs, the partying, the wasteful spending, the toxic people. This is the time to really straighten up, get close to God, and get ready, because you are going to see biblical events take place. It's going to be epic, ladies and gentlemen. Are you prepared?